Hey everybody, it's Preacher, and today we're going to do the finale of choosing our main spec for Legion. I could have dragged this out for several videos, but what's the fucking point? So we're going to do the elimination process. The idea is you should follow along with me, see if anything relates to you, or maybe different points of view and how you should arrive at your main spec. After we did the first video where we covered the questions you should be asking yourself, many people were left asking, is it that important to have a main? There's lots and lots of you actually just play a shit ton of alts all the time. Yes, really is important. If you want to get anywhere and not be stuck sort of like at LFR dungeon level, you need that main spec that keeps progressing, keeps moving forward, has things like reputations done, his professions are up to date, all that kind of stuff is very important. Have that in one place and make sure you make a good decision. So, in the beginning, we're going to be very brutal, eliminating a big cluster of specs or classes straight out the window, no messing around, because we need to get down to sort of the final three, and that's where you're going to deal with basically your own personal demons about how you enjoy to play World of Warcraft. Everybody's different in this manner, and you'll understand how I deal with this because I have compulsions. I have various compulsions about how I like to play WoW on my main character that makes some specs just completely unviable. I know after watching the comparison videos, many of you probably have suspicions about what I will choose, but it might surprise you. Honestly, I think it will do. So, spoiler alert, don't look in the comments. Let's start eliminating stuff. Okay, so elimination time. What are you going to be doing with your spec is the first question you need to ask before you start this process. I'm going to be a Mythic Raider. That means that all my specs and roles of my class should be able to be played, right? So if you're doing other content, then that has some flexibility with it. The deeper into Mythic and the higher up you go, the more realistic chances if something is even marginally better or even not just significantly better, that's the spec you're going to be playing and that choice is taken out of your hands. That's okay. That's something Mythic Raiders accept because it's about gaining the kill. You don't want to be 2 or 3% behind because you were like, I only play this one spec. That's just not the way the game works, so we adapt to that. Another thing of mine, which I'll get into more detail later, is I only really want 2 roles. When I'm talking about roles, I'm talking about tanking, DPS, and healing. I only really want classes with 2 roles. So, let us begin the elimination. Firstly, what's the big question we asked in the first video? Is this spec fun? So let's eliminate those first. That means rogues are out of the picture. Unfortunate, my WoD main, for the most part, was a rogue, and I absolutely loved it. Great choice. Had no regrets other than the overall DPS structure of the game. So, rogues are out, as are paladins. Don't really enjoy holy, don't really enjoy ret at all. In fact, I named it as the worst melee. And prot, I just don't understand why they've ended up with those mechanics. In fact, tanking overall isn't appealing to me anymore. So the Paladin is out as well, as is the Hunter. The possibility that I'd be playing Survival or Beastmaster is just so off-putting, I don't want anything to do with it. The Warrior is also out. While I do enjoy Fury, I do not enjoy arms and I don't enjoy prot. So for the purposes of me being a Mythic Raider, if I ended up playing arms or asked to play prot, I would be really unhappy. And for my few dollars a month that I pay to play this game, I don't want to be miserable in that experience. The next 2 to be eliminated in the quick fire round, and you have to be brutal here, get them off the table, get them out of there, is the Monk. Not have a big issue with the Monk, in fact rated them reasonably high, but do I want 3 roles of tanking, healing, and DPS? No, not particularly, so I'm going to dump that one. Similarly with the Druid, while I don't mind any of the specs, in fact, I actually reasonably enjoy every single one of them and actually really enjoy a couple of them. Managing 4 specs is a real problem for me because of my compulsions, but again, I'll talk about that later on. So that's the quickfire round. That leaves us with potentially the Priest, the Warlock, the Demon Hunter, the Mage, the Shaman, and the DK. So now it gets a little bit more difficult. Now it's more personal choice. And your personal choices, guys, can be as frivolous as you want them to be. It's your fucking money. It's your money to play this game. It's your time. I don't give a shit how fucking silly your reasons might be. It doesn't matter. It's your choice, right? You can do whatever you want. So for me, one of the big things I'll be looking for in Legion is a new challenge. I like challenging myself. I don't raid at the top end anymore. That's not for me. I can't dedicate the time to it that I would like. I have kids. So I look for personal challenging and personal competition. That means the DK is out, which is a real shame. I adore the Legion DK. Absolutely adore the Legion DK. But I already have World Firsts on my Death Knight. I've already done that. I've already beaten that challenge as far as I'm concerned. therefore I'm going to scrub the DK. Also from that is the Warlock. I've made the Warlock twice, only briefly, but I did play at the very top end of the game. That's like world first hunting again, and it's not something I want to get back into. I have the historical presence of mind to know that overall, if I play a Warlock for a really long time, despite enjoying its mechanics, I'm probably not going to enjoy myself that much. And with Affliction being absolutely dire, I certainly don't want to touch that. I'm now going to eliminate the Demon Hunter. I don't have a particular problem with either Havoc or Vengeance, but they don't inspire me a great deal, and there are certain one of the big points that I made of the melee Demon Hunter is that there is a playstyle in there that I really, really enjoy. I really enjoy it. But there are many other playstyles within the talent system I do not enjoy whatsoever. And I'm deathly afraid, as again, looking from it from a mythic rating standpoint, that those would be superior and end up playing something I really dislike. Because while I do like one particular talent setup, I really dislike some of the other ones. So I don't want that as well. So the Demon Hunter is going to be out. So that leaves us then with the Shaman, Priest, or Mage as being my main. So let's get rid of probably one that you all suspected would be my main, which would be the Shaman. And you're going to hate the reason for this, but it's my reason, so I'm allowed to fucking have it. My problem with the Shaman that I'm going to eliminate it for is that I really hate the race choices that I would love to play if I was playing Elemental or Enhancement. I don't particularly mind Resto, and I know I haven't done the healer comparison yet, but it's coming in the next couple of days. The Resto is fine. Elemental is great. I really love it. And Enhancement is the best I've ever seen it. So you would think that is a logical choice. However, something I really hate, and again, I'm going back to historical precedent here. My vanilla time as a priest, I was a troll priest. I absolutely detested it. But I really like the troll elemental shaman. I think it looks really cool. And if I was going to play an elemental shaman, which is probably the way I would lean, I would want to be a troll. However, if I was to switch over to enhancement for the raid's requirements, I hate melee trolls. Absolutely detest them. And I would just be so miserable so quickly playing a troll melee. And that's just my personal preference. So I should point out here, what are my personal demons that I try and overcome and what are my compulsions? It doesn't matter if I am never asked to play it. Let's say I chose the Elemental Shaman as my main. It doesn't matter if the reality of the situation is that by the end of Legion, I was never asked to play Enhancement and I was never asked to play Resto. It absolutely doesn't matter to me as a player. Given the way I play World of Warcraft as a raider, I am utterly compelled to keep all 3 specs of my class, or 4 or 2, depending, absolutely top-notch, ready to go and practice to their maximum level. I am compelled to do it. I feel that compulsion within me. If I choose a Shaman, for example, I would have to keep my Elemental Shaman up to scratch, I would have to keep my Enhancement Shaman up to scratch, and my Resto Shaman, and be practicing them regularly. I need to be the guy when someone says, can we get a healer in here, that I can be there within the next 3 minutes, and I'm ready to go. I am absolutely ready to go. And it's been something that's weighed on me throughout my history of World of Warcraft very, very badly. During Ulduar, I was a druid. I played all 4 specs every single week, and I changed my spec every single boss fight. I would do something like Flame Leviathan as a Moonkin. I would then be a bear on Razor Scale, a bear on Ignis. I would be Feral again on XT. I would then be a bear on the 3 Golem guys. I would then be a Moonkin for Kolaghan, a Moonkin for Mimiron, a Moonkin for Hodir. I would then be Resto for Freya. I'm talking about the hard modes here. I would then be Moonkin for the big Shadow Crash guy, and then probably Moonkin again for Yogg-Saron. I'm sure I've missed a boss in there somewhere, but you get the idea. And that meant that I was carrying all different kinds of resources, all different kinds of foods, all different types of gear sets, and Legion has made it easier than ever to be able to account for that, but it's not something I want to venture down again, because I find it very stressful, honestly. I find it very, very stressful. So that's why I also counts against the Shaman, is that it has the Resto and the Enhancement and the Elemental, And on top of that, I really dislike the races. What happened in vanilla, as a little historical fact here, to counter the fact that I detested looking at my priest and we're raiding Naxxramas and all that kind of stuff, is I was going through around 150 Savory Delights every week. Now, if you can think about how expensive they were in vanilla, it was a huge burden on me. An absolutely huge burden. While I don't particularly care for transmogs, the animations of my characters really count. So another example would be my warrior in WoD, my main towards at the end of Walls of Draenor, is a Tauren protection warrior because I love the animations of being a Tauren protection warrior. However, when I go to DPS on my warrior, I use a fish. I cannot fucking stand looking at my Tauren. I'll use every toy Blizzard has given me, so I do not have to look at that stupid fat cow trying to use two-handed weapons and just looking like an absolute dipshit. So, Shaman out. Down to the priest or the mage then. Down to the priest or the mage. The priest I gave the number 1 spot to, or it was the elemental, but they're both equal. The shadow priest in terms of their power and just absolute joy. And there is nothing currently more intense and more fun in World of Warcraft than the shadow priest with Surrender to Madness. It's the most fun, engaging experience I've had in WoW in such a long time. And it was difficult to say no to the priest. So obviously you know what I'm going to play now. I had to say no to the priest. Why? The 2 healing specs were just boggling my head constantly. That there was 2 potentially very powerful healing specs that play very differently, and I very much enjoyed this. Do I want to raid as a healer, though? I absolutely do not. I do not. I don't have the mindset for it. I had it in vanilla where I truly enjoyed keeping my friends alive and trying to maximize their DPS output through my play, dispelling debuffs early where ordinary healers would let them wear off and wait for them to get into position. I would make the judgment. I would dispel for them. I would life grip them back in later in the down the roads of expansions. I love doing all that stuff. I love applying bubbles to people to give them speed increases should they be moving away from debuffs and all that kind of stuff. I love positioning myself in such a way that I'm the most readily available to help people based on what the encounter is about to throw at us. Do I want to do that on any reasonably regular basis? No. The personal challenge of healing just doesn't exist for me. I'm very competitive now. I'm more competitive than I was when I actually played a healer, and that drops me down in terms of my enjoyment of healing. And the fact that the priest carries 2 of them is just, it just keeps playing on my mind to the point where I'm just saying no. So I am going to be a mage in Legion. Some good things here. One, while I did not rate any of the specs as being exceptional, I rated all three specs as being super fun. That's good. That's okay in my mind. I've got 3 specs there that if I had to play Arcane, I'd be fine with. Playing Frost, I'd be fine with. Playing Fire, I'd be fine with. Absolutely fine with all of them. While, yes, I did make a video, which was that Fire has lost some of the fun and some of the awesome moments and those moments of glory that Fire was capable of historically. The spec itself is actually great. There's nothing wrong with it, and I pointed that out several times, much to the chagrin of many of the listeners there who wanted me to praise it and praise it and praise it. I like all 3 really so much. Nothing exceptional in there, but all 3 totally viable. All 3 carry different varied talent systems to keep it fresh and keep it interesting, so I'll be more than happy with that. On top of that, I'm looking forward to stepping into that competitive arena. There are a lot of old school mages, as there were a lot of old school rogues when I started WoD, which means I'm okay with getting into that flurry of people and trying to push there and get my name up there as we did with the rogue. I'm looking to get into that arena and looking to get into those tiny nuances that make the difference. You time that living bomb 1 second better, allowing you to get 2 off, and then you start making those little differences. Movement is going to be key. And plus, the big one is, I've never really, besides playing the Warlock briefly for, at the very top end of the game, I've never really cared much or gone super competitive with a mage, or a ranged DPS I should say. I've always tended to favour melee, and looking at the melee lineups, the obvious ones that I'd want to play, like the DK, are just things that I can't really challenge myself with anymore, I don't think. So the ranged DPS is a new challenge for me. So the mage fits all my criteria. That is as easy as it is to pick your main spec. Just working through it, considering each one. Is there something in your back of your mind that's making you think, I don't like that? I don't like that. And if that's the case, it's easy to just say, no, okay, I'm not going to play it. And now I have my class. That's the one I'm going to invest my time in. That's the one I'm going to be sitting with. Now I can tell my raid leaders. Now I can practice with it and learn and get all these little details down. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you choose your class, and that is how I have chosen my class for Legion. I hope that's helped you out. I hope you can see the thought process I went through so you can end up on the correct choice for you. All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.